Our studio lights are on, so that can only mean one thing. Our generators kicked in to keep us going as we are going through one of the stages of load shedding. And that's brought about a great sense of frustration to many of us as South Africans. Whether it's within your household or as an entrepreneur, you probably have felt the impact of this lockdown, or rather the load shedding and the frustrations that many of us share. But there are solutions. We know that Eskom is an industry, or rather organization, that has been challenged by its infrastructure, which is aging and hasn't been maintained effectively over the last 40 plus years. And that's why we're experiencing load shedding at the moment. But if we think of how businesses, many of whom use solar, if you think of parking lots that have solar panel roofs, solar on their properties, and even mining companies who use alternative sources of energy, renewable energy specifically, they are able to power themselves up and even have extra capacity that they keep in storage. But now the opportunities come about for them where the president, in a recent update, has actually allowed the threshold of licensing threshold for electricity generation by private companies to be increased from 1 megawatt to 100 megawatts. To help us understand how this is quite significant and how it really does help us in terms of managing the stresses and the strain of load shedding on our economy, we're now joined by the chairperson as well as a representative of the Africa Energy Chamber. He's also an energy expert, NJ Ayuk. NJ, so great to touch base with you. Feels like forever since we've spoken, right?
It is. That's why when you called, I jumped.
Oh, thank you. As the younger generation would say, it's been a minute. But NJ, ordinarily when we interact, we talk about oil and the oil price, and we'll touch on that in just a moment, a little bit later in our conversation, as that's a price that's been increasing, much to the benefit of some of our peers on the continent. But I'm keen to get your perspective regarding the increase in the threshold of private sector electricity generation in South Africa. Help us understand the context here. Just how significant is this move that's been mooted by the president?
This is the largest free market energy experiment in the continent, period. The big debate was always about going from 1 megawatt to 10 megawatts in South Africa. And now you move from 1 to 100. Mm-hmm. So every young businessman, every black, color, white, whoever you are, you can get energy, produce energy, and move that energy into the grid and sell. Eskom is not going to be the only producer or generator of energy. Mm-hmm. So it has opened up a lot of doors for everybody to be active participants in solving a chronic problem in South Africa. It is what those of us in the energy industry, we would say the president didn't just hit a home run and if you play basketball, he picked the ball and he ran away with it. That's what he just did here.
So that's great news, because it really does provide us with a sense of relief and comfort that there's an alternative to purely relying on power and electricity from Eskom. But practically speaking, how long is something like this going to be felt in the South African market? How long will it take, given the licensing or non-licensing requirements and the actual process of reselling power into the grid?
I would say you would see some results within 6 to 12 months, because there's been already a lot of power producers, especially on the renewable side, which have already some battery storage that they can move it into the grid. Now, big issue there would have to be what pressure would the ministry, the energy department, be willing to move as fast as they can. First of all, to approve licenses and permits, and then Eskom also would have to fast track the purchasing of energy from alternative suppliers. Mm-hmm. So, then with all the infrastructure that has to come in place, you would have to give it 3 to 6 months for you to see some first big release. And this is practically very important now at a position where you are not going to have economic recovery in Africa's largest and most industrialized economy, South Africa, without energy security and energy infrastructure. This is what I mean, the president has outlined a vision. That is good. But it depends on what we do, because his vision doesn't move by itself or bend by itself. It depends on what the bureaucrats leading business to be able to drive this to really make it a reality.
You touch on such an important point there, NJ, because many of our peers in the industry have come forward to say this is a difficult one to celebrate. It's taken us 13 years of rolling blackouts and experiencing load shedding. Businesses have suffered, households have been under pressure, and only now we are sourcing a solution in terms of increasing the capacity that private companies can create in terms of energy. How do we need to, ensure that we can expedite this process, that civil society, business, and government accelerate this a lot quicker to ensure that there aren't any further economic losses that are experienced in the country?
I think you need to incentivize the process by expediting. One, banking comes into process in ensuring that there is equity in how you go. Black and women-owned businesses, you should have financial access to capital for them to power rural communities, small communities, because you're talking about a structural economic reboot of the country. So you would have to look at rural communities, not just the cities, where they would have to create jobs in those communities, create power in those communities, and really drive it for so many young people that they can be entrepreneurs right now. So access to capital to finance this power shift, it's important. But also really walking away on some rules that would hold back. So think about it. If somebody's going to produce 60, 70, 80 megawatts, big money, you would have to spend millions and millions and millions of rand, give him the permit, fast track that so that we solve an economic problem. And don't only look at it in South Africa, see South Africa as the economic engine that could power the entire SADC region. But now on the small scale production, you have a lot of black and women-owned businesses that need to be incentivized and empowered to really run this, because they will then have the capacity, the competence, the training to move in the big leagues and actually provide more and create a more inclusive and equitable community, as you would see in the future. Do not forget this process that the president has created. It could really go a long way, because it's two things. You're going to have gas coming out of South Africa in the future. You're going to have gas coming out of Mozambique. You will be able to take that gas, bring it right into South African power plant, and then still be able to provide power not only in South Africa but around the region. So you're creating a bigger power pool that could see South Africa really driving growth in South Africa and around the region. And I think that it's how we manage it. That's what really matters. And who is included during this time to be able to drive it. You must really look at the list of things to participate, but also hold everybody accountable.
Very true. NJ, as we wrap up, though, I'm keen to get your view. You have the wonderful opportunity to be the executive chairman of the Africa Energy Chamber. So you really have a bird's eye view of the activities taking place on the continent. We know that there have been many calls to ensure that we are able to generate our own power and also share and distribute that power across different regions in the continent. Are there countries that are getting it right in Africa that we can learn from as South Africans in terms of being adequate regarding power generation?
A lot of countries are moving towards getting it right. Look at Kenya, look at Senegal. They have an amazing energy mix. Don't forget the Takana geothermal project is one of the largest geothermal projects in the world. It is built here in Africa, was built in Kenya, and they have moved that very well. And you look at Senegal, where you got renewables today providing about 40% of its energy mix. It's working. So there are some African countries, you look at it, but the regulation has to back it up, because money goes where it is water.
Yep, I think a powerful line to leave it off on. Money goes where it is welcome. NJ, thank you so much for your time this evening. We really do appreciate it and helping us understand just what a great opportunity this is. Having private companies producing their own source power in electricity generation, and whatever they don't use, they are able to sell that back into the grid for households like yours and I to make use of, thus presenting further rollouts and load shedding. That was NJ Ayuk. He is the executive chairman of the African Energy Chamber.
This is Kaya Biz with Guletu Fupi on Kaya 959.